Welcome to the Road is Dead podcast. I'm Rob Curtis here in the Cymet studio with
Leah, Sanda,
and joined remotely by
Tim Strelecki.
I don't know if that's the right way to say it. Remotely by, remotely with, remotely by. I don't know. Anyway, somebody who's
in studio.
Yeah, there we go. That's even better. This is episode 127. We're kind of creeping up there. I think we covered it, but we started in 2018, 2016. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, we did that last episode. We did ask you guys, what do you?
No, I was just saying it's February 27th, and we are racing in 2 days.
Yeah, I was going to actually touch on that really quickly.
That's good.
Why don't you hit it?
So March 1st, in 2 days, we're all three of us doing the Dirty South Roubaix 100K gravel race. This will be my second time down there. Rob's first and Tim's first, I think.
Yeah, I've had it on the bucket list for a while, and I've always chickened out because in my brain it's like it's February. I don't want to race this early.
It's hard.
But I'm actually stoked.
I'm super excited about it, even though my fitness is nowhere near where I was last year going into this event. So I mean, I was just like, who cares? It's March 1st. It's a training ride. Not to say that I'm just going to sit there and loaf, but I will grab every opportunity to work with other groups and get up the road, trying to be mindful of my effort. I know at some point I am going to fade hard. I just don't have the ability to go 4+ hours at race pace right now, and that's okay. I'm probably going to feel great the first 2 hours, and then I'm going to kind of fight dropping anchor the whole time. But I see a lot of things that I can accomplish for myself. A, it's great training. B, it's a great opportunity to reintroduce my brain to working hard again. And I've just started entering into that with some interval training for myself and remembering a lot of my little tricks to help me stay in it when I'm hurting. So really it's a lot of mental practice for me that I'm looking forward to. I don't know. Rob, what are you thinking?
Well, you actually want to hear mine?
Sure.
I was thinking Tim would go first. Tim, you?
Okay, Tim.
You have the floor. The mic is yours.
Well, literally it is. I mean, I think I paid for it.
That's a fact.
Okay. I didn't really, Tim, you said it's been on your bucket list or whatever. To be honest with you, I want to say I've never heard of it, but that would be incorrect because you guys do mention it every year. I just don't think about it much. To me, in the past, it's always been like, like what you're saying, Tim, it's February, I don't.
Yeah.
It's February and it's in Illinois. Those are two things that typically don't go together.
Right.
And I just don't see myself. A long time ago, when Barry Roubaix started, I want to say, there were a lot of people from our team that would go over and race it. And I remember thinking to myself, those guys are idiots for going out at this time of year. And then they're all shocked when it's like all ice and snow and who would want to do that? That sounded like horrible to me. It still kind of does. I'm not going to lie about that. There was the first year that I did Barry that, was so outrageously cold. I don't know what has changed other than I have gotten a lot of really good gear for riding out in the cold. And because I've done that, I'm actually really comfortable riding in the cold now. So it seems like stuff like this is back on the table for me. So I started paying attention to it, and I kind of was like, I didn't do a lot of training in the off season, obviously, because I actually have an off season. I kind of want to relax and recharge mentally. Tim and you and I have talked about this. We know at least one other person that does not, and they usually end up burned out by this time of year already.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that. I mean, I think as you age, it's important to stay active, stay moving, stay riding.
I didn't say I'd stopped riding. I mean, I was still riding 1 to 3 times a week. There was probably 1 or 2 weeks where there was no riding at all, but there was like some running in some way, or something, just kind of moving. It wasn't as active as I would like, but it was, not sitting around the whole time. But anyway, so with that in mind, looking at Barry coming up, I do kind of want to do better. I was in better shape at the end of last season. And every time I go to Barry, I kind of want to do better. If I stop doing better, I kind of want to stop going, to be honest. But with that in mind, I'm like, it would be nice to get a good climbing event out of the way before Barry. So I signed up for this. Or I decided, you talked me into it in like December, and it was already full by then. I like slept on it for like a day or two, and it was full. So I got on the waiting list. I kind of had a feeling it would come through. It didn't. We actually had somebody on the team, not on the team, but a friend of somebody on the team that was giving up their entry, and I was able to take it. You actually stayed on the wait list, and you were, I think, directly behind me in the wait list, weren't you? Fairly close.
I was in front of you.
In front of me? Well, you ended up, your spot in the wait list came through.
Yeah.
And you were only within a handful of spots in front of me, I want to say.
You would have got in. You would have got in.
I'm sure I would have, yeah.
I think Schratz was way down there, and he got in.
A lot of people change. It's kind of like Barry and everything. People change last minute. And you have to sign up so far in advance.
I had that. I was going to do the Dust Bowl last year, and the Dust Bowl 100 out in Indy, and I was on the wait list, and I'm like, there's no way that I'm going to pull the trigger on this, stay on the wait list, pull the trigger, and then like 3 days before get the notification that I'm in. I can't prepare for that.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the way I approached this one with Dirty South Roubaix, but lo and behold, 2 weeks out, you're in.
Yeah.
Hooray.
Yeah. I mean, it worked out.
Yeah.
So with this on the table, I was like, okay, so I got this coming up. And then last weekend, shout out to Stu Garwick for doing that Frostbite 40, putting that together, which is just a off the cuff ride, as organized and unorganized event as you can have, meaning there's nothing organized about it if we're getting into legalities, but in terms of we all knew where to go.
Yeah, I mean,
at the same time,
gather
bunch of friends going for a ride, right?
Yeah.
High five, and here's a route. Do with it as you please.
Yeah,
and don't be stupid.
And that was a good event, and it was coldish the whole time. What tells me is that I'm really good at riding in the cold for myself is that I didn't think that was cold that whole ride. I thought it was a little bit almost too warm for what I was doing. So the cold did creep in over time, but I knew it would. So I've got into controls. Between that, doing this one, which is a 100K with heavy climbing, from what I can tell. Not a lot of it. It's not like Barry, but the climbs are longer and harder, the ones that are there. And then there's a lot of not climbing in between the climbs, from what I understand. Am I wrong with that?
Yeah. Agree.
So I don't know. I figure between these two and then Barry and Rough Road's the week before Barry.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I figure I'll be tuned up better than any other time for that. So I don't know. If you guys go by Garmin at all, their little training thing, their training statuses and all that, it's based off my heart rate, my watch, and what I've been doing training wise and this and that. I have not spent the time to fully understand it. I don't really care to. What I love is what it tells you all the time when it's like, you're overreaching, you're, this or that. Mine has been like really good for like all last year was really good, showing greens and, you're doing stuff, you're building and whatever. During the last 2 months, it gave me one that I had never seen before, unbalanced or something. I don't remember what it was. I think it was
I don't pay attention to it.
No, but I showed it to you and you were like, I don't know. I've never seen that before.
I don't.
It was like a total red one, and it was like
the last thing in the world that I would trust to give me any feedback on my training situation is Garmin.
I will say I don't.
Algorithm. No, thank you.
To prove that point, it kept telling me my FTP during race season was like 240, 245, towards the end of race season. I didn't ride much, with the Garmin at all, because I was doing Zwift if I was doing anything. And then I got back on for like a couple easy rides a couple weeks ago, and it was like, your FTP is 215. And I'm like, I don't think it's dropped that much, but whatever. Then I did another one. It's like 217. And then we did that Frostbite 40 where I pushed it a little bit. We were out with Rich and I wanted to stay with Rich. On a couple hills, I pushed it and then I waited, so it wasn't like it was all zone 2, but I mean, you looked at it, it was like 83, 84% zone 2 for that ride. And when I got done, it was like, oh, your FTP is up to like 228 or something, it's like, whatever, nothing really changed. And I know that. So with that in mind, seeing their little training status things, it kept telling me in the last few weeks, like, you're overreaching, you're unproductive, you're, all these like horrible things. And then all of a sudden, after the Frostbite 40, it went like you're building or you're progressing. It like went all green.
You are paying way too much attention to this.
I think it's interesting. I think it's funny. I don't really pay attention, so to speak.
You're paying way too much attention to a metric that you know is wrong. Everybody Everybody that looks at the Garmin when it says productive or whatever spiel it tells you knows that it's not right in their heart. Yeah, I mean, it's cool to see when you do something and it's like productive or maintaining or whatever. It's great to see that because it fulfills it fulfills all your wishes, but in reality, it's not correct.
It picks up something, something about it is okay in that
it feeds the ego.
Well, it definitely does that. But
that's what I meant to say.
I felt good after the Frostbite. I went out for a ride on Tuesday and I was just feeling good. And so I was able to actually go and lay down at my FTP for a long period of time on the ride that I did. And it showed when I got back, and it was like, forget what it said. I don't know. I don't remember. But anyway.
Your Garmin FTP is incorrect.
Oh, I understand that. I'm not worried about, I'm not training with FTP. I'm not training with power. You know what I mean? So I don't really care. What an FTP is.
You do care.
I care that I'm making progress. I care that I'm making progress.
If you
whatever measure that
correctly, if you want to make progress correctly, use the correct way. Don't use Garmin.
I'm not using the Garmin to make progress.
You're measuring. You're saying
I did the Garmin to tell me I made
at FTP. How do you know that was your FTP?
By RPE.
Okay. I was going to say, if you know your RPE,
actually,
then that's the best gauge.
I was writing below FTP for RPE.
Okay.
And then when I looked down, that was telling me numbers that I thought were fairly higher than what I would expect if the Garmin was correct, if that makes sense.
I'm not poo-pooing you. I'm just saying, however you got to gauge it. If it works for you and it makes you feel good, then run with it.
Yeah, so I'm feeling okay, and I want to go out and I'm going to do this, and we're going to see what happens. I have not. I think the longest ride I've done the last few years is right around a metric century. So I did quite a few of them last year that were near there, but I'm not doing any centuries anymore. So we'll see how this goes. If it's quote unquote race pace, I'm not doing a race pace on this though. I'm just going to ride this damn thing. Nice. Says your mom. Anyway,
what are your goals, Tim?
I think just to get a good day out of it. I mean, it'd be in my head, I would love to be with the lead group. I don't know if that's sustainable because the lead group's probably going to consist of, 20, 15-year-old and 20-year-old kids. Not to say that I couldn't, but who knows? I've put in a lot of work. I've been working since, probably a week after CrossNets. I took a little bit of downtime and I've been doing all sorts of intervals throughout the heart of the winter and up to now, and we'll see where I end up. Gravel's way different than cyclocross or anything else. Gravel is long efforts at your FTP or higher with spikes on top of that. So we'll see how it goes.
This course has enough long stretches of kind of flat-ish that working with a group can be super. You can get very tactical with your racing at this event. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's new. I mean, it's cool. Everything I've seen on doing a little bit of homework on YouTube, it seems pretty cool. So It looks like a good time.
The town of Alto Pass is super cute, small, surrounded by vineyards and the rolling
Yeah.
hills of the Shawnee National Forest. It's very rolling down there. It's a beautiful area, absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful.
It looks
So,
fantastic. I think the
yeah.
hardest part's going to be that levee section, honestly.
Depending
It's
on
going to be a
wind, right?
tailwind. We're going to have a tailwind going through there this year. Tailwind the
Okay.
whole first half of this race. So the levee, unless it switches into more of a crosswind, if it's just we're gonna fly that whole first half of the race.
I just
Yeah.
want to point out if it's a head or tailwind for the whole first half of the race, it's going to be a headwind for the whole second half.
Yeah, but so you're mostly going south for the first half, and then you kind of come up and you come back in, and then
It's
you go
almost like a
kind of
figure eight.
out. Yeah, it's almost a little kind of like a figure eight, but the
Yeah.
back half swoops in and out more and goes
Yeah.
up through the Trail of Tears Park with the trees and stuff. So it's not like you're going to be driving straight into a headwind on the way
Yeah,
back.
you'll have
You're
some
going to be,
shelter.
it'll be
Nice.
crosswind sheltered, some of it, and some of it won't be. So, it'll be a mixed bag coming home. That final climb, though, I looked at another file of mine and it kicks up to like a 15% grade at times. And that's just in that last half hour.
I love that.
When I looked it up for you, Tim, and I was like, oh, it's an average of 9%. It's like, that doesn't seem I remember it being steeper than that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, no, it is.
Yeah. I like.
You're going to like it. You're going to like it. So
I don't know. I've been doing climbing more.
Yeah.
Like even on Zwift. I did the out to Zwift for those that, because I've actually, a lot of people have been asking me about that in the last week. I did go out and do it, and I came in at 94 minutes, 95 minutes, something like that. So, slightly over what I thought I was going to do. But to be honest with you, like I told you, that's a long time to concentrate. So I actually started texting and, checking stuff out. And there was more than once I kind of stopped pedaling, just kind of let it like coast for a bit, for 5 seconds, and then started again. And there was a lot of not inspired pedaling, if that makes sense. But I was still okay with the whole 95. I had to push hard though and get out of there towards the end because you were going to meet me at the shop and I was going to be late. So yeah, he was like, "You're obviously not taking it seriously because you wrote me a whole dissertation in a text." It's like,
that's the first thing I thought when I saw it. I was like, "There's no way he's going hard if he's sending me a text this long."
Yeah, I mean, but do I ever go hard on any of that stuff? So that's where I'm at. For those that were wondering, we do want to get into
the benchmark to do it again.
Sure, yeah, and actually, yeah, I would easily do it again. It wasn't that bad, so it is kind of nice to feel that kind of the climbing load power kind of thing. So anyway, we got an email from Rage. Just want you all to know, and he did send a bunch of topics for us to cover.
For those that don't know, Rage Thomas is the new ICA president here in Illinois.
And so thanks for sending it in, Rage. The first one, basically, he was going on supplements. And not sure there was a topic in there other than this is what I do for what he's been doing. And we all agreed we'd hit on some supplements, like what's your favorite, what you take, or, not necessarily what you'd advise anybody else to take, but I mean, for yourself.
I guess I will start because I seem to be the supplement queen here.
That would put it mildly.
Yeah, that's the hard truth.
I geek out on this stuff. I find it super interesting. And I didn't want to just like throw a handful of stuff meaninglessly into me and just have really expensive pee. So I took the time to do a lot of research and get some testing done and find out what I actually need. Plus, what are some of the absolutely undisputable best supplements out there that anybody, especially athletes, especially maybe even women, I don't know if any of these are specific to women. But number one on my list is creatine. I take 5 grams of creatine every single day. Number 2 on my list, and 2 and 3 kind of go together, is a very hefty dose of omega-3s. And I take a supplement at night that's a combination of enzymes that reduce inflammation. You have to take them on a completely empty stomach, so I take them right before I go to bed, and that helps reduce inflammation from any just training, life, whatever. And I definitely notice a difference when I'm consistent with the enzymes and the omega-3s in terms of aches and pains. And the creatine is just like it's the most researched effective supplement out there, and those are definitely my top 3.
Nice.
Me or Tim?
Go ahead, Rob.
Okay. There's some supplements that I take daily, but it's they came about because I was tested at one point with some sort of deficiencies for like a couple things, mild ones. So I took them, but daily I'm on the biggest ones that I would say would be L-theanine, and I take that during the week, and that's really for my brain. And I got to tell you, I'm extremely active with it, and it's combined with some other stuff. It's pretty nice. What else? Take a little bit of taurine, CBD. I take CBD for inflammation, and that has greatly changed my life. So I had a lot of gut inflammation and gut issues, and mainly I was taking it for the heart to calm down after I got COVID. But ended up, I still take it daily, a small amount, but a little tincture, and that has changed my life when it comes to food. I don't get the kind of gut issues I used to get all the time. So that's really helped for inflammation.
And it's funny.
It's THC free, correct, Rob?
It is for the most. I think it's got a
Yes.
minuscule amount, like less than 0.5% or something like that.
And you are using the tincture that I had told you about, and I don't even take it anymore because I really didn't notice any difference other than the fact that I would be more groggy when I woke up in the morning. So I'm just like,
I don't need it to sleep. It definitely will help my sleep. I used to take a magnesium supplement that would really knock me out and really give me great sleep. It was a decent one, but that's the one that ended up getting me down the taurine route. I take a little bit of taurine, but magnesium I still take in a couple things. Mainly I'm getting it from Element and something else I can't remember. But I do take a little bit of AG1 daily and Kion, whatever the hell that.
Kion.
Yeah, whatever.
The aminos, the essential aminos. Yeah, no, I love my essential aminos. There's a lot on my list. Essential aminos are definitely one, just to help be more efficient of getting all the essential aminos in, because especially as you get older, extracting them from the protein that you eat becomes less and less efficient. So you either need to eat a lot more protein, or you can supplement with essential aminos because it just gets absorbed right away. It's perfect.
Yeah, and everybody's been commenting on kind of what I look like and everything like that. So I don't know if it's the supplements definitely added to that in some way, shape, or form. I mean, some of it was volume, but the rest of it honestly has been a change in diet, but mainly supplements, not as much diet because I still eat crap. But what else? There's a bunch of stuff I take in the morning, and it's not interesting to go through all of it, but like zinc and shit like that.
Yeah, I take zinc.
Zinc, some B complex, a little bit of vitamin C. I don't know. There's other stuff.
Yeah. How about you, Tim?
Pretty simple. I mean, I'm take vitamins every day, so it's B, C, D, multivitamin. I take a turmeric chew. I usually take 2 beet chews with coenzyme Q10, with CoQ10 in them. I'm currently out, but I usually take those. And then supplement-wise, I started using creatine before the cross season. So I've been using that. I haven't used that probably in 20 years, but in a different form, like you, Leah, 5 grams a day, whereas back in my BMX days when I was taking it, it was the whole like loading phase and then the maintenance
Yeah.
phase, which is monotonous and like hard to keep up with if you're not really trying to look for that from creatine. So the 5 milligrams a day, I think works. I didn't think it was working, and then I did an FTP test and found out that it was through the results. Other than that, I really don't dive into too many other things. I mean, I have a plant-based protein that I take, and then I usually just have like an herbal tea before bed to help me sleep, like Sleepy Time from Celestial Seasonings. It knocks me the hell out, and I sleep good. And I think for me, what I've learned over the last probably 5 years is, or maybe less, 3 to 5, is that the most important thing for me, supplements aside or anything like that, is sleep. And
Yeah.
I will not sacrifice my sleep for anything. If I get at least 8, 9, maybe 10 hours a night of sleep.
I wish I could sleep that much. I
Yeah.
wish my brain would let me. I sleep
Yeah.
about 7 to 7.5 hours a night on average.
Yeah.
And that is all I will sleep. I can lay in bed for another 3
Yeah.
hours if I want, but I won't sleep anymore.
That's
I'm
a
usually in bed between 7:30, at like 7:30 and 8 o'clock at the latest.
that's an age thing, I think, almost, because
My whole life I've been like that.
well, I haven't. My whole life I've been able to sleep as much as you'll let me sleep, and I would just keep sleeping and sleeping and sleeping. Now I can go to bed at 10 o'clock. I'm going to be up in about 7 hours.
Mm.
That's and I don't have any problem sleeping. I mean, I don't have any problem going to sleep. I can put my head down. I'm out,
Mm.
and I don't wake up feeling groggy or anything. I mean, it's my body is waking up on its own now, and it's like 6 hours and 40 minutes or so to about 7:30, in terms of the total number of hours that my body will let me sleep. If I'm
Mhm.
sleeping longer than that, that's amazing anymore. But it's been a change for me in the last maybe 2 years like that. You mentioned beets. I'm taking a super beet kind of thing,
Mhm.
basically for hoping that will help lower where my blood pressure is over time.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah. I have two different forms. Like I have the daily, that's just like in a chew form, or I have a nitric oxide booster that I take for
that's
when I'm competing or going into like a super hard interval session.
yeah.
And a lot of people will probably look at me funny. Something that I will use a lot of times before my races that really, really, really helps is 5-hour energies. And it's not because of the caffeine.
It doesn't have a lot of caffeine.
No, it's all the B vitamins and the taurine and all that in it. It helps because one of the things that I would find was I would start to lose my attention span in a crit, and I'd start to kind of space out. It really helped me keep laser focus. It just
Mhm.
mental energy was
Mhm.
big, big, big with that. Without
Yeah, call
any of
5 hour
the
energy for nothing.
yeah, and I was like, everybody says, "Oh, they're so bad for you." I'm like, I don't know. I'm looking at the label, and I'm like, it doesn't look like there's anything really bad in here, other than maybe the sucralose. But
There's a
Hey,
lot
they
of
they
things that are bad
sponsored
for
a
you.
cycling team, so they can't be that bad.
yeah, I mean, it's not like I guzzle it down daily,
Right.
like
It's
some
not
people
like
I
you're
know.
slamming gigantic Red Bulls and Monster
Yeah,
energy drinks before, a 90-minute crit
yeah, yeah,
on top of like probably 75 milligrams of caffeine gels. And
Ugh.
like,
yeah.
dude,
I mean,
some of these,
I don't
go ahead.
really, I'm a caffeine sensitive person,
Oh
so
yeah,
I have
same
to
here.
really be careful. I do
Yeah.
drink coffee, but my first cup is always about 75% decaf, 25% regular. And then I can have a regular full calf coffee later in the morning. But then when it hits
Hmm.
noon, I have to stop because I'm a super slow metabolizer of caffeine. It would suit me best to just not consume it at all, but I love coffee.
It's
Yeah.
3:40. What did you just chug?
This is tea.
Oh, okay. Good for you. I was just about to
She
call you. I was just about to call bullshit on you, what you said.
she gets the chai tea latte now.
I'm a
Nice.
chai
Good for
tea.
you.
It's my
Good for you.
occasional treat. So
Yeah.
I
I
do.
find a lot of times with the afternoon coffee, it puts me in a bad mood.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I definitely won't sleep if I.
I can't do.
Yeah.
I'm finally that. I used to be able to drink coffee all day long and never have a problem. And
Yeah.
people have told me it's a sign of ADHD or whatever, that I could have drank 2 coffees and then gone right to bed and never had a
Ooh.
problem with that.
Wow.
But now I'm to the point. It's with age where
Yeah.
it'll definitely keep my mind awake late at night
Yeah.
and kind of help postpone what's already a bad thing of me wanting to go to sleep later.
Yeah.
I switched to half calf. I do half decaf, half regular in the morning. And I used to just do 1 coffee a day. Now I'll do a coffee, then I'll do a coffee in here, but it's still going to be mostly decaf. And then she got this because she was going there. It's a decaf because there's no way I could drink a coffee this late in the afternoon and you know, aside from bed, I mean, my body just doesn't like that much caffeine.
Right.
It doesn't handle it as well as it used to. I'm old. All right, is that good enough for the supplements?
Sure. What's next on the list?
All right, next topic: dealing with salty chains in the winter because wax ain't cutting it. Basically saying, how do you deal with it? He's doing a lot of riding outdoors in the Chicagoland area, downtown, most likely, this time of year, with all the salt and everything on the roads. He said wax isn't cutting it. What I would recommend, I'm jumping in on this one if you guys don't mind, but honestly, I would just run a regular chain and run oil lube, and just re-oil it. And I would run oil. I would not run anything fancy. I wouldn't run any like ceramic coating, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Just clean it, put oil on there, put a lube on there that's got a cleaner in it, and just keep doing it. That's what we did in cross. It'll keep stuff running. And as long as you've got it wet, pretty much all the time, you don't have to definitely wipe off the excess, but it leaves a coating on there. And if you're commuting in the kind of weather that we've had this winter with as much salt on the road as there is, I'd be looking at your bike, if not every day during a bad session of it, I would be looking at your bike every couple days. So a couple times a week. And there is no such thing as lubing that chain too often, as long as you're wiping off the excess.
Can I add something?
What's that?
So, I discovered what happens when you have a bike. Say I have a rack, and I used to carry my fat bike, or I still carry my fat bike to and from rides. And if you're driving on the road and there's a lot of salt spray, it completely destroyed. It wasn't just my chain. It was like the whole drivetrain, the brakes. We ended up just replacing the brake calipers and everything.
I don't know if you remember, but you did that to my fat bike too, on that same rack. It destroyed the entire drivetrain. I have finally replaced it.
When
you picked it, you were nice enough to pick it up for me, and you drove it here, and it was in a snowstorm, and I didn't clean it off immediately. That whole thing was rusted out.
Oh, okay. So anyway, the thing that I have found that works great for the fact that, I can't use a hose to rinse a bike off or anything in the winter. I went and bought one of these garden sprayers from the hardware store. It's a 1 gallon garden sprayer. You just fill it with water and pump it up the pressure, and I can spray it off when I get home. And that's just a quick and dirty way to rinse a bike off. Because I was just like, how the heck do I do this? I can't use my hose. How am I going to wash my bike? And I don't need a full wash. I just need to get a good rinse. And I could do it kind of with like a water bottle, a bike water bottle, and kind of like squirt it at stuff, and that kind of sort of works. But the sprayer is pretty handy because it's small, it's lightweight. I can travel with it to events and stuff if I need in a pinch. It's not a lot of pressure, but it's better than nothing.
So, anyway. In terms of what do you do in the spring? Do you just put a new chain on the spring? Yes. Yeah. When in doubt, put a new chain on. Once we're done with the salt on the roads, go ahead and throw a new chain on there. There's nothing cheaper maintenance-wise than throwing a new chain on. And not throwing a new chain on, especially with modern drivetrains, the way that they are, causes a lot of damage that can get very expensive very quickly.
Yeah. What's next?
Next on there was best cycling product we tried in 2024.
Well, the first thing I thought about was the bird spokes as we started working with them in 2024, and we all built up wheels with those. I've used them in a few different scenarios, and I love how lightweight they are. The only drawback I find with them is in a windy situation. I think the spokes grab the wind too much. I can see why they are very popular for mountain biking and cyclocross, where aerodynamics really isn't a concern. But for gravel, I have the fortune to have two different sets of wheels that I could decide before a race, look at the forecast and decide if it's going to be over a certain wind, maybe over 10-mile-an-hour winds. I might opt for the non-bird. Also, if it's like super climby event, I might opt for the lightweight bird wheel set. So I can make a call on that. But
I've noticed the same problems in crosswinds with bird spokes, and but I wouldn't hesitate to use them in just about any gravel event, and I have used them in every gravel event so far. And it just, to me, you get blown around like you're riding 50-millimeter road wheels. I mean, it's still got the same kind of thing, but they do push like a mother. I mean, I lean into it sometimes, like
You got to
I
fight the
do with
bike.
the 55. Yeah,
yeah.
it's like riding a super deep road rim in a crosswind.
Yeah.
Tim, what's your
Yeah.
favorite 24 product?
I don't really have anything. I mean, I have the bird spokes, and my feelings are exactly the same as both of yours. Great going uphill. Little bit, for a rider like me, doesn't really help me on the downhill because of my lightweight and the lightweight wheels. There's no momentum. So everyone I pass uphill passes me on the downhill. And then, out in the open plains, you're blown around like a sail. But they do serve a purpose when they're used for going uphill, and I'd love to use them in a mountain bike application, or even I did think about maybe trying them tubeless for cyclocross this season and see how that goes. I'm sure it would make a world of difference. Acceleration on them is great. The vibration dampening is great. Yeah. Other than that, I mean, I think the only other thing I might have gotten on new this year is GRX 11 speed. I love it.
I was actually going to throw that out if you weren't going to mention it. I was like, what
No.
about GRX 11 Di2?
Yeah. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it so much I sold all my SRAM. All of it.
I love my 12-speed Di2. So, yeah.
Well, okay, so
Yeah.
it's my turn. My favorite new product that I tried in 2024 would be Shimano 12-speed GRX Di2. Absolutely adore it. I can't say that enough. It seems like every time when I'm like, well, maybe it's going to start. It's very hard to explain, but I don't like when things start to act certain ways on bikes, and I'm not going to explain it all, but it's pretty normal for a group to start doing that after a while. And every time when I think this group is going to start doing it, it doesn't. And then I'll take it out for a ride and it just crushes it. And I love that group so much right now. So I got nothing bad to say about it. The other, if we can't say new product, but obviously the best product last year was going to be some buttonhole chamois cream. Go ahead and stop by your local shop and ask for it by name and pick up a jar and, help us out. Anyway, any other products, last thoughts?
Not a cycling one, but I got a weight sled and I absolutely love it.
All right, next. Most well-run event in 2024. Leah, you starting?
Well, honestly, the one we're going to this weekend is an extremely well-run event. I love it. So, that's kind of on my mind right now. I'm trying to think if there's anything that was a poorly run event.
Yeah, that's hard.
I mean,
I think that's more interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of our events are really around here really, really well put together. I can't think of anything that really stands out way above everything because they're all good.
I'll jump in and say, I think, if we separate it out into things, Barry Roubaix does a really good job at running their event. It's impressive for that number of people.
It's the biggest gravel race in the world.
Yeah, it's really impressive. Second, if we're talking about like cyclocross races, honestly, I think we absolutely crush it in the CCC for how well they're run. We've got great, officials. We got the system down. If you're not from the area, maybe the system might seem a little complex or overly complex, but I think it runs great. But going up to Wisconsin, I like the races that they ran up there, for cyclocross. Our road events, there's not a lot of them left anymore, but the ones that I think of would be the Intelli series or whatever the hell, Chicago Grit.
Mm-hmm.
It's well run. I mean, it's a good organization. They know what they're doing. And track is phenomenally run out there. Well, you did a lot of that this year. So
what's that?
Running the event out at the track.
Oh, at the velodrome?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it would be harder to find an event that wasn't well run. And I know of some just through word. I did not go there, so I won't mention their names. But I think every event I was in was pretty well run. Tim?
Same. I don't really, unless I go do a race or whatever and come back or something's just burning me up on the drive home or the commute home, and I keep stewing over it. I have had none of that. So
yeah,
all the races I've done, in 2024 were good.
Well, what makes a bad event? What makes a poorly run event?
Races not run on time. Results messed up, not posted,
not timely.
It's hard. I mean,
a course or a race course that has dangerous stuff or is confusing when people, don't, can't follow it, like it's misleading.
Oh, you mean like in terms
turns
of a gravel
and
event?
stuff. Well, I mean, you would think in a gravel event, people understand you want to have the route. You always want to have a route. Even if they're going to mark it on course, you should always have the route. So the people that make wrong turns on gravel routes, I would say either it was their error or sometimes the maps. Sometimes the maps that are put out have had mistakes in them. I've heard of that. But other than that, I don't know.
I would agree with all that. I think those all add for a poorly run event.
I mean, you can't.
Yeah,
really
but even a crit, if it's got a questionable layout for course, and you can tell they just did it anyway because that was the only course they were allowed to use for that municipality. There's some courses that I think have pushed it a bit too far, but they're still working. To be honest with you, that one that we were talking about at Cabda, Wauwatosa, the current Wauwatosa crit.
Yeah,
and it's just that downhill turn by the parking garage.
Yeah, but here's my thought on that. Like, if you're signed up to race this, you should know how to ride that.
Oh, for sure. But
I'm not saying it's not dangerous, but you should know what the fuck you're doing.
At the same time, the wrecks that we see in that are in the better categories.
Well, yeah, because they're going
a lot faster,
10 miles an hour faster.
Yeah.
A P12 field's going exponentially faster than the Masters 4.5.
But that's the only kind of thing I would say kind of adds for a not so great race. I'm not a huge fan of the Lombard.
You can
course.
argue because the sketchy shit makes the race exciting.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
that's what crit racing's all about.
I'm not a huge fan of that Lombard course, but a lot of people do like racing on it.
I don't like it. But I race it.
It is, yeah. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, even the people that really don't like it do still show up and race it.
20 minutes away.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Dugas tires acquired by Vittoria. Yes. Dugas acquired Vittoria, or the other way around. Vittoria acquired Dugas. They kind of dropped the ball this last cross season, but they are now seemingly doing pretty well, lining up for this upcoming cross season. To be honest with you, from what I've seen so far, for the first 2 years of it, we were getting product that was still Dugas, and It was made by the same people, same ways, everything. Now it definitely looks like Vittoria product. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes in the coming years.
Do you think anybody is going to produce a tubeless tubular again?
Nothing new.
Okay, nothing that you've heard of.
No, I just don't. I don't think anybody's going to produce anything new.
Like
Meaning,
a tread pattern?
No, just we're not going to see anything different come out. Tufo still manufactures tubeless tubulars. They are imported into the U.S. I did not think that they were for some reason because you'd never see them. But they are imported into the U.S. locally, basically by the guys that used to be Oshner. Provello,
I think.
I think it's Provision.
Okay.
But it's, Russell and Rudy over there are still bringing in Tufo, and Tufo, that is who made the
PDX.
The Donnelly tires / Clement tires. They were making those tires, and they are bringing in cyclocross tires. So, it's the same tech. It's just not the same treads, and therein lies the problem, I have a feeling. So, but it's the same casings, same casings. I'm sure there's a tread or two in there that might work on occasion. So who knows? Maybe that will be something. Maybe that will come out and then turn into something at some point. But I really don't think so. I was talking to the guys at Challenge at Cavda, and they have realized that they have locked up the U.S. cyclocross market. And that the only thing, actually internationally, they're also saying they've kind of locked up the cyclocross market. The only one challenging them at this point, they said, is Vittoria. So that would be Vittoria and or Dugast, both brands owned by the same company. And they're both kind of taking a little part of it. So what brands do you trust in cycling, clothing, bikes, equipment, etc.? Ladies first. So go ahead, Tim.
Well, I mean, clothing wise, I always ride in my Pactimo stuff. I've never felt a need to ride in anything else. I know that's clothing is such a uniquely personal opinion stuff. So I don't ever, it's like, I don't need to get into arguments with people. I was like, oh, well, this is better, or this is the best. And it's like, ride in what you like. I like all my Pactimo stuff. It's consistent for me. So, and equipment wise, oh God, I'm a little all over the place equipment wise. I seem to change who I'm in love with for bikes and stuff.
You're kind of like
every
me. You need
year
to have
or two, So I'm like,
project.
Yeah, I like new projects. I just like new fun stuff. I do find myself tire wise consistently going to Continental, the GP 5000s.
For road.
For road, yeah, it's been kind of my go-to tire. I like the rolling resistance. I like the way they feel. I know there are people that love their Pirellis or love their whatever, but I like my Contis. Bikes are bikes. I really haven't met a bike that was like, this is an awful bike. It totally doesn't work for me. I haven't really met any. I pretty much fall in love with all my bikes, so I can't single anything out. I don't know.
Tim?
I don't know. All my bikes have been the same for years now. I just try to make them a little better. Just try to upgrade them here and there. Going to the GRX Di2 was nice.
Question for you.
What?
You said all the bikes. Why are your bikes still the same from season to season, do you think? Why don't you change them?
I don't need to. They're fine. They serve the purpose that I need them to serve. And
all right.
To get a new bike nowadays, it's like a house. It's more than a house payment.
That's where I was going towards. Because I think it's gotten ridiculous.
It's going to continue to get ridiculous. There's nothing we can do about it, because as long as there's demand, there will be supplied, and you're going to get charged whatever you're going to get charged. I'm still on a rim brake road bike. Well, that's broken. That just sits on the trainer, but I don't really care. Yeah, bikes are just ridiculously expensive. So I don't I just try to upgrade what I have. I mean, I finally gotten rid of some bikes. My cross bikes are set. My road bike is what it is. My gravel bike is what it is, and my mountain bike is what it is. It's, even to upgrade, it costs an arm and a leg. So it's,
Yeah.
I got to pick and choose my battles. And the problem is having too many bikes. And I feel like I have too many bikes, but I use them all, so it's okay. It's justifiable. Um, I don't know, I think, I probably sound biased here, but if I'm talking equipment, it's all the brands that I currently work with, helmet protection, definitely Abus. I've worn a lot of different helmets in my years, cycling, and I find that the fit, the comfort, because you get a lot, sometimes with some equipment, you can get a lot of hot spots. At least I did because my head's, been knocked around so many times. I got bumps over here and bumps over here. Then sometimes some helmets don't fit well. Um, I've never run into that issue. I recently stumbled upon over the last probably 2 years Lake for
Oh,
cycling shoes.
I was just gonna
Um,
say Lake shoes. I have
it's
about a million
been
pairs. Yeah.
it's been the best experience I've ever had. And even though when I was originally choosing the style of Lake and the sizing and trying to dial all that in, I chose incorrectly. But they're right out of the box, even with being a little bit incorrect, because I have real skinny heels and narrow feet. I chose the wrong styles, but they're so damn comfortable. I've been riding in cycling shoes for the last, both road and mountain that were completely wrong for my foot. I mean, hot spots, the break-ins were terrible. Um, just a lot of discomfort. Um, so once I found Lake, I was like, oh, sticking with this for the unforeseeable future. As long as I'm riding a bike, I will always wear Lake shoes for sure. Um, yeah, I mean, like I
Yeah.
said, I don't really jump around a
I'm
lot.
right with you on the lakes. I think that my balls of my feet tend to go numb. I think I have like
Yeah.
nerves pinch and stuff in there. So being able to get a shoe that's wide enough that lets my metatarsals breathe, a little bit
Hmm.
of space between them is super
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
So the minute I found myself with the lakes and being able to order them in a wide, I was like, oh God, finally. So I have just about every style of like shoe that you could possibly need and extras because you never know.
I mean,
Yeah.
a few other things, even before I became associated with the Buttonhole brand and, have an
Hmm.
opportunity to run Buttonhole, I was using it
Oh yeah. Same.
when I came out here probably for the last better part of 10 years. I started with the Embro and it burned the shit out of my legs, but I loved it. And then I found that they had chamois cream. So I've been using that ever since. And that's well even before you owned it, Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well
Yeah.
before. So that's not
I-
like to say that just because I'm associated with it, it's the best. Like it honestly is. I love everything about it. Um, and then obviously what you bring to the table, Rob, in the wheel department, as far as your craftsmanship, both of you actually, you and Leah, your craftsmanship, your dedication to servicing the customer, to giving the customer what they want, to making sure you're building the right wheel set for the customer for whatever application they're looking to use their wheel set in, identifying what's good, what's not good with the customers. I mean, I've been bringing you wheels for many, many years, Rob,
Long
especially
time.
starting out in cyclocross. Before I even was associated with your brand, I just knew you were the guy, and I could bring you a set of tubulars on a Wednesday. I could pick them up on a Saturday and trust them 100% on a Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what you guys bring to the table as a wheel brand and a bespoke wheel builder is huge.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Is it my
You
turn?
know? Yeah, absolutely.
All right. You have 6 minutes. Go.
Oh shit. Yeah, no, it shouldn't be hard. You guys have said pretty much all of them, but I'd say Shimano
Oh, absolutely.
without a doubt. That's my. I'm firmly in the Shimano camp until they. I don't know. I'm not saying it won't ever change, but it just that's where I'm at right now. Maybe some of it goes back to the fact that when I was introduced to the sport, they represented everything that I liked. Like engineering and technology versus old romantic Italian Campagnolo, which was the other choice then, which was too
Careful,
expensive for me.
you're going to upset people.
Yeah, but that's the reason why I picked them.
No,
And then
I agree.
initially, and then I stuck with them over the years just because it just works. It just works. And it's not outrageously expensive, no matter what you're working with. I mean, people can argue with me on that, and I'll take that because money is money, and everyone's different with it. But in the grand scheme of things, I think that they're very reasonable, and they seem like they've always had good options at a good budget level.
I
And
like the cross compatibility of it.
yeah, yeah. The fact that we just last week we were trying to get Rich Smont set up with some GRX. He's got that old Cannondale cross bike, the Tim Johnson special, and we wanted to get. He needed some more gearing to be able to get out there and climb some stuff, and the only way that I could think of to do that was to put a GRX crank on there and get all the way down to that 31. And I had an old mechanical GRX rear derailleur sticking around, and I had a front GRX mechanical sitting around, but he's rim brakes, and that group from day one has been disc. I was pretty sure it would work with any mechanical lever that Shimano made in that 11-speed generation. And then we called our local tech guru for Shimano, and he confirmed it. And you had a pair of Ultegra 11-speed mechanicals.
Yep.
And
Graciously
we threw them on.
them over.
I didn't even blink twice. That shit just ran.
Yeah,
and
he was
it
psyched.
Worked beautifully. He was able to ride this weekend, and it ran great. So I will say that I kind of always thought that SRAM was also the same way on a lot of that. But man, I've had to go back and work on some older SRAM recently, and it's not as straightforward. It really does get into this situation where you're like, okay, well, I need a whole new group at this point. And because if I'm going to do this, I got to do that, and then I got to do this, then I got to do that.
That's exactly the reason I got away from it, because you couldn't just like fix one thing. You had to fix everything. And so that's not cost effective.
That's why I like Shimano. Kits, obviously, I like Pactimo. And I've always liked Pactimo, but I want to say Pactimo was the first really official good like team kit I ever had. Before then, it was kind of a mix of crap, and I would ride. I went from a mix of riding the least expensive stuff that I could find, whatever was on sale, to riding only Assos for everything. Which not everything. I the bibs I pretty much did as Assos, and then when I got on a team that had Pactimo, that was when I first really felt like I had real gear, like professional gear, and it just stuck. I mean, everyone out there is doing good stuff now. To your point, Leah, I can't tell anybody else what they should or shouldn't wear because everybody's individual, but inevitably I will have somebody come on the team and be like, can we pick somebody other than Pactimo? And the old response was, here's the list of 40 things that Pactimo also does for us, because they also play a role in the local racing scene. If you can find a clothing company that will do all those things, then maybe we'll talk, but we're not going to talk until then. And even that anymore, it's like, you know what? No, we're just staying where we're staying because we know it. We know the cuts. We know what's going to work, what's not going to work, and we've got a good relationship with them. So, that's kind of why we stay there. As I'm sitting here wearing a Pactimo, track jacket. Helmets, I don't really, Bell works for me. Giro kind of works for me. Others have worked for me. I have not tried Avis. I probably need to at some point.
Are you in a cask now, though?
No, I was in a cask.
Oh, that's right. You got
I switched back to Bell, and I liked it when I switched back to Bell. Then I have that current Bell, that Sphere or whatever. I don't like it. I don't like it as much. It just feels clunky. It doesn't feel as smooth and nice. And I look at my old Protone from Cask. I like that helmet. I really did like that helmet. And you've got, so we run Cask and Bell for the team right now, and so we go back and forth. But I I gave my old one to my son, so he's the one wearing that. And every time I see him, I'm like, damn it, I like that helmet. Lake shoes. I have ridden a lot of shoes over the last 40 years. And, early on, it was whatever I could afford that was on sale, which meant at one point I was wearing shoes from Performance, that I couldn't try on before I bought them through the catalog when I had to write a check and send it in. It's
Kids don't know anything about that these days.
I know. And that was a slotted cleat.
What do you mean
too,
you don't have quick pay?
And I was all happy because I got the new 105 pedals that had the resin, toe clip on them. But anyway, that dates me. At least I can date myself. Let's see. But shoe wise, I've been all over the place over the years. I felt like I found something amazing when I found CDs, probably 20 years ago, when I could finally afford CDs, 20 years ago, and I got into their Mega last, which was actually wide enough to fit my foot, and man, I loved those shoes. And then I started to realize they were just too soft. They didn't have a stiff enough sole. And then the sizing started getting weird. We went over to Specialized. We had to deal with Specialized for a while. And while I think they were making wider shoes then than they are now, I can't wear their stuff, their new stuff now. Can't even fit into it. And then somewhere along the line, we ran into Lake, and you were using Lake. And then we had a couple connections at Lake, and just trying it. Oh my God. I mean, night and day difference. And to echo your sentiment, Tim, I will never try another shoe.
Never.
Unless I have to, unless they just die. But at this point, I have one or two sets of road shoes. I've got a set of off-road shoes. I've got the mid-weight, kind of like 50 to 30 degree boot. And I've got their heavy winter boot. And I've used all of them extensively. And they fit amazingly, and they seem like they get better the longer you wear them. That's my take.
100%. When they break in and the leather softens up, oof.
Yeah,
so nice.
Amazing product. If you have the ability to go out and check it out, I highly recommend that you do.
I mean, they're local.
It's not going to work for everybody. It's not going to work for everybody. I know that. Oh yeah, and Lake stands for
Lee.
What's
Cats?
The A or the A was
Lee A. Cats.
Enterprises.
Yeah.
So it's Lee Katz basically runs touring bikes here in Chicago, and I don't know the whole story, but started it in the 80s. So
it's awesome.
Now it's in the UK based, but US side it's based here in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So I say here in Chicago. I'm in Elgin, in East Dundee.
Chicago
guys,
proper.
There you go. Let's see.
Well, we're at an hour.
I know.
Do you want to keep going?
Well, we always go to an hour and 10 minutes.
Okay.
I don't know how you don't know that. Who would you want to interview in the cycling world? I know my answer, and it's a 5-second answer.
Oh,
go for it.
I feel like I already interviewed her at one point in time, but I would want to do it again. Is Laura Van Gelder?
Yeah, that's a cool one.
I don't have anybody.
No one? There's no one you'd want to talk to? Nobody even from the BMX days?
No.
All right. Me, it's Andy Hampston. There's no second on that one. If we could interview Lamond, it'd be interesting, but I think he'd just run the speech, so it would be what it is.
What would you ask him that he hasn't been asked a bazillion times already?
Lamond?
Something unique. Yeah. That's where I'm just like, what are you going to interview someone and you're going to ask them?
I could come up with questions, but they would be weird.
Oh yeah, you for sure. I could see.
Yeah, I would ask him stuff about the book he wrote.
Hey, you remember that time where your mom did that thing for you? You remember that?
No, I'd probably be like, so how'd you meet Kathy?
Yeah. You remember that, right?
She was my childhood crush. Well, I was a very young person. Anyway, who would you want? Okay, best cycling YouTube channels.
I don't actually watch any YouTube channels for cycling. Most of my YouTube channels are like
Voodoo, witch doctor food.
No, they're just like Peter Attia and used to be Ben Greenfield, but he's kind of annoying me lately. Yeah, it's more like in the health and nutrition and performance related stuff, I guess. So I I don't think it's cycling specific, but Peter Attia does get cycling specific in some of his podcasts. So
I would say YouTube is kind of like my time to get away from cycling in a way. So my favorite YouTube channels are like Model A channels, Ford Model A channels, and like how to do certain engine work or tech or building stuff or stuff like that. But when I do look at cycling, I got to say GCN, their tech side, I do watch those videos. And every now and then when they do like a video on like comparing bikes or tires or something like that, I'll look at some of their stuff.
Dylan's, I like his too.
Yeah. But outside of that, I mean, there's one or two that I would look at and watch sometimes, but it's not like something I go to every time and be like, oh my God, what's new on there? I don't watch any of the racing. I think that I think that may be coming from a younger generation in that regard. Because I think all of us came to racing long ago enough that there wasn't YouTube, there wasn't videos. And I don't know, to me, the idea of watching somebody else race never appealed to me. I have done it, but I've done it like I will say I watched the Cam Rock video, and by God, I went and won that race. So, I did it though to get an idea of what the course looked like,
right?
And kind of what I was getting into.
You're not just like, oh, here's a cross race at Cam Rock. Let me check it out.
Yeah, no, it was very specific, so I could go and check.
Yeah. So,
but the other one though, obviously, is the Road is Dead podcast. I hear that YouTube channel is just off the hook.
Yeah. So looking in my YouTube right now, I have UCI channel, Road is Dead, Dylan Johnson, Peter Attia, NorCal. NorCal posts a lot of amazing content of in race footage that he breaks down and analyzes what went wrong and what went right and stuff. I absolutely love the NorCal cycling channel.
I like when people post clips from racing, as long as it's a clip. I don't want to see a whole 45-minute Masters race.
You should watch them. They're entertaining.
I'm sure. But I would like to see, this is the first 5 things, there's 5 things that happened during that race. That would be interesting to me.
Yeah.
Tim?
I think for me, when I watch cycling on YouTube, I am going to anything that Thereabouts creates, which Thereabouts is they do like a lot of documentaries. They do a lot of stuff and tell stories and document a lot of the craziness that Lachlan Morton does. It's really inspiring, and just to see what one human being can do. And that also filters into like their EF channel and the Rafa channel, because they kind of follow him along as well, and they do their own little stories about the madness that he does. I find it very interesting, and just what kind of person he is and how he views what he does and what the crazy things that he does, what they mean to him, and how like he's turned off by results and things like that. Not to say that he doesn't try to go for them, but it's more about the experience for him, and I like the way the stories are told. I've watched some stuff that Leah Wilcox has done. Do you guys know who that is? She's
Leo.
Yeah. I gravitate towards that. She's a great storyteller. The documentaries that she has, I do. When it's this time of year, I'll find myself looking at a lot of in-race footage from Corey Williams on the crit scene, because the dude's super good, and just to watch how he makes his way, starts in the back, and his races are 15 minutes long. His little clips are 10 to 15 minutes long.
I can watch that.
Starts in the back, moves up, and then the bell lap. It's just madness to see real time point of view from a real dude that's super good and wins 90% of the races, to see what that is like, and just to see the madness and hear it all. Like he doesn't voice over them. He just lets the footage run raw, so you can hear it all, and it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So I find some pleasure in that. And then I've watched some Dylan Johnson stuff. It's educational. as funny as it is. I'm really a fan of Backwards Hat Dylan. Backwards Hat Dylan
Yeah.
cracks me up.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's kind of really just the way I view what I watch cycling wise on YouTube kind of goes through whatever I'm going through. Like if it's gravel season, I'll go try to get inspired by some gravel racing and I'll watch some of that. If I'm going to race crits in the summer, I'll watch some of that. Cross is easy to get stoked for. Mountain biking, I watch a lot of mountain biking in the summer, so I'm all over the place, but those are mine.
I forgot to mention the Silka channel. I do watch, even though they're all just paid promotions. I do like listening to Josh Portner talk,
Yeah.
which is interesting because I think before I got to know him in this way, I think I argued with him a lot on different forums way back in the day, but I argued with everybody, so who cares? That's just about it. Anybody else got anything else? If not, Rage, thanks for writing in and throwing all these questions out. I love questions like this, so makes a podcast easy. We can talk about anything forever.
I got something. Let's take a bet right now. Right now.
Shit.
Okay.
I'm out.
No. We don't have to bet monetarily. Okay.
I'm still out.
So Jonas Vingegaard just won the Tour of Algarve on 150 cranks. How long until you think everyone and their mother is on 150 cranks?
It'll be forever because the major manufacturers just aren't going to make them. So
right now I can't get anything from Rotor in a 165. They're out of stock on everything. So it's like shit.
Rotor's one of the few that actually makes them, and they're all buying them. I get it.
Yeah.
165 is creeping through the Shimano, repertoire, but I got to tell you, with everything they do is forgings, and with the amount that they forge and the intensity with which you've got to build a mold for forging and everything, I just don't see them making quick inroads over to it. SRAM, who knows?
I mean, the pros are going to get what the pros want.
Yeah, but they're going to do it on a prototype basis for most of them, and they're going to continue to do it on a prototype basis. I think the market is screaming for 165s. I think it will go that way.
Until it goes to 150 in about 5 years.
Yeah, and it will do that. I think it's one of those things where those that know a lot about crank length, and I'm still just dabbling in it and have forever. I've done my little test for myself and everything. I ride 170s because I can get them everywhere,
Right.
I would probably I ride 165s at the track, but so does everybody, so it's not really all that big of a deal. But if you know anything about crank length and you've looked into it at all, there's absolutely no damage in going shorter, and there's no reason not to go shorter if you want to, and just try it and see how you feel. There's definitely damage that you can do if you go longer, in my opinion.
The big advantage to going shorter is in the opening up your hip angle. You can get more arrow in the front, you can get lower because it lets you open up your hip angle. Or if you're somebody that has any hip issues at all whatsoever, go shorter on your cranks. You will be blown away by how much it helps. So my 2 cents.
Yep. And you've had hip issues in the past, more than once.
Yeah.
So
if it wasn't for the fact that I know I'd fall in love with them and then have to replace every single crank on all my bikes, I would go to 155s.
Yeah. No, I get that. I personally, I know that I had hip issues. I used to run 172.5s for cross and TT because I liked the leverage. That was a long time ago, but I would run that for cross and TTs. And I would notice towards the end of cross season every year, my hips just hated me, absolutely hated me. So I went down to 170s and I was fine from that point on. So I know for myself, if I go longer, I have hip issues. So it would stand to reason that if I went shorter, I'd be fine. You're not losing anything power-wise, so.
And I guess I need to add Rotor then to my trusted brands.
You do use Rotor.
I have a Rotor crank on every single one of my bikes, bar none.
It's a good setup. I got a set. I love it.
I do like their tech. I do like what they make.
I like that it's modular.
A lot of it. Yes. Yeah. And I've worked with a lot of it because of you guys.
They're not the cheapest things out there, but they are so well made, nicely machined, just beautiful.
That's why I'm not running it.
Everything about them I love.
I can't afford that stuff, but I love working on it when you guys buy it and bring it in. So by all means do that. And I love being a dealer for them. So, all right. Well, thanks for joining us. If you do come in with some ideas, we would love to hear them. Go ahead and hit us up on email at roadisdead, all one word, roadisdead@gmail.com. And of course, stop and grab you some buttonhole chamois cream. We do have some new graphics coming our way here fairly soon as Mr. Dan Malik can get off his butt and get it done. But, you know, I'm sure he's not
Shots
listening
fired.
to this, but
I'll send him a link.
If
I'll send him a link to the podcast.
If y'all know Dan, you know, poke him a bit, and we'll get some new graphics out there for you. But like I said, go to your local store, your local bike shop, pick it up. There is ways to get it online if you'd like to do that. You can always get it through our site, enzocyclingproducts.com, but you got to pay for shipping. That is our way of telling you that there's a benefit to going and supporting your local store. So ask for it by name. If they don't have it, tell them to give us a call. Apart from that, go and visit all the wonderful sponsors and people that we do business with that we mentioned, among others, and, you know, get out there and ride your bike and enjoy the ride.